Welcome back to The Verdict. It's our continuing coverage of all things 2019 general elections. We're taking a look at the response by the chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, the reasons, the questions he took from stakeholders, and whether or not and how they are internalizing it. If we're going to move forward, how do we move forward? What do we need to do to ensure lightning doesn't strike twice? We've got GT Ogunye, Channels TV's election consultant here in the studios. We also do have Chioma Onoshapo, a member, business and professional women. Sitting beside her is Ezewa Onwagu of Yaga Africa. GT, let me ask you, I mean, when Chioma Onoshapo says, look, from a business and professional perspective, that this has cost us, for those who think we need to do something about not shutting down the country, do we have to legislate upon it? Or we can just say, look, yes, elections can go on, but you don't have to have that blanket restriction of movements where just a few professionals have got to go to work. Can we manage both?
No. Our prevailing circumstances do not give us much choice. It's either we want to do it the modern, the digital, the electronic way, or want to do it in a manual, analog manner, which will require that you lock down the country, effectively police the process and movement in order to have a credible election. And let me just give you an example, because people can say a lot of things without relating this to our actual reality. If you want to conduct election in Lagos, for example, Lagos State, Lagos, where you move from one part of the city, and for you to get to the other part, it will take you 3, 4, 5 hours with commercial activities and beehive of all sorts of activities. If you don't restrict movement, how do you even imagine that using the current method that you can deliver an election on a day in Lagos? Moving ballot papers, even from one location to the other, how are you going to deliver that? So people can say all these things and all that. It's either want to do it this modern way or we do it this way. And security is issue. Logistics, even during the electioneering process, is an issue. In past elections, we've often been confronted with the problem of late arrival of electoral materials. So if you don't lock down, if you allow people to move from one part to the other and wherever they want to go, that will implicate the issue of gridlock and the certain lateness in the arrival of election materials. Not only materials, but even the human beings that will move from one part to the other. So let's not just pretend that we are not aware of our reality.
No, we are, because I remember that the last time in 2015, you just sounded exactly what I heard in 2015. So we're going through the process again.
Yes.
And a lot of people had expected, and I think I do remember, Chamberlain, if you remember too, that in 2015, the consensus after the discussion was that INEC must go digital, and that it is the only way that will ensure that all this bottlenecks of having to shut down the economy, having to restrict movement and all of that during the elections is needless. But we're having that again.
That's the problem.
Have we learned anything from 2015, or is it a deliberate attempt not to learn?
There's a seeming deliberateness in not wanting to learn and in not wanting, it's very sad, to do the right thing by the Nigerian people. You're talking about going digital. Wait. The banking sector is almost electronic now. To write university matriculation examination is electronic in a way. You know, to do a number of things and all. So why can't you then attempt to have this? You know, there are two reasons why people may not want to embrace this. There's this fear of tampering, of interference, of hacking, of all those things, you know.
But for how long? For how long were we we had the same thing. The same submissions you made was the same submissions you made in 2015. How then do we move? Can we move? Can we move at all?
We can move. we can move. Because, as I've often said, you know, now we use all sorts of things that civilization has provided. We're not insisting that we have to do it the old way. The last time I checked, Nigerians are not going to Saudi Arabia using horses the way they used to do 100 years ago, right? So you now have Hajj flights, Hajj operations and all that. We are using plane, right? We are not insisting that we should be using, you know, passing through Timbuktu, trans-Saharan, you know, trade routes to go to Saudi Arabia, right? We can move. And I think that we need to move. We need to embrace all that is modern, all that is good, even in our democratic process. Mind you, this democracy we're practicing is not homegrown. So it's not autochthonous to us. It's not a culture, right? So if we can embrace it from elsewhere, we should also be able to embrace what they are doing in those places currently
Mr. Ogunye,
to run their democratic process,
let's look at it this
including their electoral system.
International rating agencies, there is a concept there that a bank or an organization cannot be rated above the umbrella rating of the country or the society in which it lives. That also means that we will always have this kind of results, because some people have said you cannot solely blame INEC, because INEC is operating under an umbrella set of values and circumstances. And so its results cannot be better than this.
No, I don't agree with that. And I'll give you reasons.
This is because, now, INEC, everybody's looking at INEC because it affects everybody. But there are projects on a daily basis that fail in the country.
Yeah.
There are businesses that have to shift the dates of their completion. People who are building houses, who are having massive projects in this country know that they've had to change dates of timelines. So INEC's result today is not exclusive to INEC. It's exclusive, everyone experiences what INEC has experienced today.
No. Why I disagree with that kind of reasoning is simply this. INEC is not given this line of excuses. And I'll break it down. INEC repeatedly said, money is not a problem.
It's not money.
We have the money. No. I'll come to that. Money is not a problem. It's not money. INEC has not said that we have an apprehension that security will not be available. Because people are talking about security now, that's also a critical element, so that we will not be ambushed further down the road, you know, when we get to next Saturday, right? You know, INEC has not complained about security because the election had not come up yet. INEC has not said that, oh, we didn't have places where to print these materials. Don't forget.
Please let me prove it to you that it did subtly. Let me explain it to you. The INEC chairman said, look, we had incidences of fire outbreak, and that 2 others were averted. There were security challenges, which affected, because they had to mop up, he mentioned it. These things may sound subtle, but they're there.
So in those places that we had fire outbreaks, were they isolated, and was election then allowed to be held in the country while those places will hold the election later, as indeed envisaged by Section 26 of the Electoral Act, which allows INEC to postpone elections in certain places ahead of that election if it occurs to INEC that for reasons of, you know, emergency, fire outbreak, flood, disaster, election will not be able to hold in those places. For example, since we're having a presidential election, if, because of the fire incident in Plateau State, in Anambra State, in Abia State, if these places are isolated, so why would election not hold in other parts of the country? Since INEC protocols allow it to conduct the election and postpone those elections in those places. That's the point I'm making. You just can't resort to justification and rationalization, as I said earlier, to then, you know, offer Nigerians a picture of inevitability. That, you know, this, who we are, we can't be better than this. This is our best. It rankles. Because, you see, this is the biggest black democracy on earth, so to speak. We're black people. And so we should be able to do this thing in a way that our race, Africans, will be proud of us. So it is not the responsibility INEC bears is not INEC responsibility alone. It's not even a Nigerian responsibility alone. It's not even an African responsibility. It's the responsibility of every colored people that we can do things properly. And so when you have all the resources made available to you, and you then say, oh, there are macro factors. Our country, you know, by our standards, we're bound to fail. I won't accept that, because just as it is said, you know, that even when you have a black pot, a white pap can still get out of that. You know, and this is a translation of the Yoruba proverb. So we can still have the best here, and that's why many Nigerians who school in this ramshackle environment go elsewhere and excel. First-class brain. They are trained in this country.
All right, Chairman Onoshapo. I mean, Chairman, I haven't listened to Mr. Gunye's submissions about what we need to do to ensure that we don't shut down the country while conducting elections. Do you see reason why we may not be able to achieve that unless, of course, we go electronic?
Yes, I would agree with him that we can't shut down the country. I mean, it's even impossible in 1 week to even consider that. We will bear the losses. I mean, as business people and as Nigerians, they say we've grown thick skin, and we are going to bear the losses for next Saturday election since it can be digital. But we are hoping that this Saturday is going to be it, so that there won't be another Saturday that will have to bear these losses. There may be 2023, we can consider going purely digital. Like he said, is probably a deliberate effort made by a certain group of people to make us not go digital, because, I mean, there's BVN. Just recently, I went to the bank to do a transfer, and then they asked me for my thumbprint, and it was so easy for them to do a transfer. And then there's codes everywhere, *737, so many codes everywhere. You can stay from the comfort of your homes to do that. So I support him that going forward, we should be able to consider digital voting as it is in other parts of the world.
Well, he did also say that we haven't learned from the lessons of 2015, and that by this time, since we have come to that consensus that what we actually need and what INEC needed to do as of 2015 against 2019 now is to ensure that we have a digital system that will work for everybody, considering that some of those criteria that you just mentioned, that you're being able to make a transfer because you have a BVN and you're using your thumbprint. Do you feel, for instance, that INEC is not being sincere, or the government of the day is not being sincere in ensuring that we have a process that is much faster, a process that is digital?
Well, I would say for sure that the INEC as an institution cannot convince us that they are going to give us credible election in the next 1 week. So because of what they have shown now, and the fact that they've had over three years plus to prepare for this, and having digital voting as an option, and they didn't take advantage of it, or it wasn't even mentioned. I strongly believe that they are not being totally sincere with the entire process.
But you also know that for that to happen for INEC, there has to be a considerable amendment to the electoral act, and we got to that point where the president did not sign that amendment of the electoral bill. Do you think that in any way would have helped INEC's situation today if we had that bill amended?
Well, I wouldn't sit down here to discuss politics because I'm here representing business and professional women, and so I'm going to speak on that point. But they had the options to introduce digital voting if they really wanted to do that.
Okay, Onoshakwa, let me take it away from you before we go on break quickly. Could you respond to that?
Yes, I think that's the way to go. But unfortunately, there's been a kind of legislative pushback, not just lack of appreciation of the necessity to go digital by the executive and even by the judiciary. I'll give you an example. Following the 2015 election.
It's actually break time, but we'll come back to you in just a moment. Do stay with us.